Glastonbury is a town built on legends, so let's start by looking at some of those. St Dunstan was abbot of Glastonbury Abbey between 940 and 960, before becoming the Archbishop of Canterbury. In 1188, the monks of the abbey produced a body claiming it to be his. This was hotly disputed by the clergy at Canterbury. However, pilgrims continued to visit the body of St Dunstan until the 16th century. In another miraculous discovery in 1191, the monks just happened to stumble across the graves of King Arthur and his wife Guinevere, as you do. The huge increase in pilgrimage caused by this miraculous discovery helped the abbey to become one of the foremost Christian houses in England. Another famous Glastonbury myth is that of Joseph of Arimathea. He was a rich man and a follower of Jesus, having buried him in his own tomb. In the mid-13th century, a story started circulating that he visited England, bringing with him the Holy Grail, the sacred cup used by Jesus at the Last Supper. The legend has it he buried the Holy Grail under a nearby spring, and planting his staff in the ground on Wiriel Hill caused the holy thorn to grow. Glastonbury's earliest residents were Stone Age farmers. Glastonbury then being an island amongst a large area of boggy land. They laid trackways across this bog, which was preserved by the peaty water. The remains have since been discovered. In 1892, the remains of a lake village were discovered about a mile outside the town to the southwest. This settlement of around 90 huts flourished between the 1st century BC and the 1st century AD. The Tor, which lies to the east of the town, is home to many other myths and legends which I will look at in a separate video. The origin of the name Glastonbury is uncertain. One theory is that it is the corruption of Glaston Inga Burr, which means the fort, or burh, belonging to the people of Inga, the place with oak trees, Glaston. Glastonbury only grew into a small town after the formation of the Abbey in the 7th century. Many kings gave it grants of lands and it soon became very wealthy. 3 Saxon kings are actually buried there. Edmund I died 946, Edgar died 975 and Edmund Ideside, who died in 1016. In 1184, the Abbey suffered a disastrous fire, but it was rebuilt. The Lady Chapel was also built at that time and was consecrated in 1186. The Domesday Book of 1086 tells us Glastonbury was already described as a town, although probably more like a village. It probably had a population of between 400 and 500 and was surrounded by fields. It also had a vineyard. Over the years, Glastonbury grew rich due to the large number of pilgrims visiting the town. The centre of medieval Glastonbury was the High Street, which was known as the Great Street until the 14th century. The market was held at the western end of this high street, and there was a chalk well to the south which provided water supply to the town. The name of this survives as Chilcourt Street. A hospital was built in 1251 dedicated to Mary Magdalene. In it, monks would care for the poor and sick as best they could. Another source of wealth in Glastonbury at the time was its involvement in the cloth industry, with wool being woven and dyed here. As well as a weekly market, the town held 4 annual fairs. Fairs were like markets, only much bigger, with people travelling from a long distance to attend. The population of the town by the Middle Ages was between 800 and 1,000, still small but quite large for those times. In 1539, Henry VIII closed Glastonbury Abbey. Abbot Beer refused to submit to Henry, so in 1539 he and 2 other monks were taken to the Tor and hung, drawn and quartered. This was a huge blow to the town, dependent on its pilgrims. The abbey was then sacked, with many of its stones being taken to build local buildings. 1642 brought the English Civil War. Soldiers from both sides plundered Glastonbury and helped themselves to whatever they fancied. In 1685, the Duke of Monmouth rebelled against the king. Followers camped in the abbey and in churches in the area. The rebellion collapsed after the Battle of Sedgemoor. Afterward, 5 prisoners were hanged from the sign of the White Hart Inn. In 1705, Glastonbury was incorporated, getting its first mayor. In 1750, a man named Matthew Chancellor, suffering from asthma, had a dream in which an angel told him to drink water from Glastonbury Springs on 7 consecutive Sundays in a row. He claimed this miraculously healed him. As a result, visitors flooded into Glastonbury to drink the spring water. However, the flood, no pun intended, did not last long, and although a pump room was built, and an assembly rooms, in 1873 there was an outbreak of smallpox which effectively ended the flood of visitors. The town hall was built in 1814, and in 1846 the market cross was erected near the centre of the town. In the 19th century, Glastonbury became famous for the production of gloves and stockings, with rug making added to the list in 1825. In 1833 a canal was opened to Bridgewater. This carried goods like coals, tiles and timber, and it wasn't long until 1854 when this was replaced by the Glastonbury to Bridgewater Railway. Also around this time, improved technology meant better soil drainage in the surrounding levels, which meant more farming and more prosperity. In 1859 the Chalice Well was laid out with gardens and fountains. Even today people believe in the healing powers of the waters from this well. Sadly, in 1966 the railway to Glastonbury was closed as part of the beaching cuts. In 1978 the Somerset Rural Life Museum opened in the Abbey barn. In the 1980s another museum opened in a house called the Tribunal. This building dates from the 15th century, but despite its name was never a courtroom. In the late 20th century, Glastonbury was also the centre of sheepskin clothing. There was also a livestock market at this time. The annual Glastonbury Festival of Pop Music also began in 71. This is now a world famous event taking place every year in June. In the late 20th century, Glastonbury became the centre of the New Age movement, and there are now many healers in the town. Its New Age connections now draw many visitors to the town, giving it a sacred air. Today the population of Glastonbury is 8,000. I hope you like this potted history of Glastonbury. Please feel free to like, subscribe and click that bell button to be notified of when we put these videos up. Thanks for watching and goodbye.